Hey YouTube, what is up? I have a deck profile for you guys here today. This is my Danger Crusadia Thunder Dragon deck. Now, this is the deck that I've played longest and I feel the most comfortable with going forward into this current format, but I'm not necessarily saying that this is the best deck. It's just the one I currently know the most. I decided to make some updates and changes to it because you definitely needed to with his last ban list. It's not like Sky Strikers where it was easy to just take out, 2 Kagari from your extra deck on the last list, and then you're pretty much good to go from there. This required a little bit more to make the deck work as well as it should, and there are some changes I'm going to make in the future. But with that being said, let's get into this deck profile. First off, I play one Amorphage Sloth. Now, the reason I play Sloth instead of Goliath is just because it's a lower level. You can actually, special summon a Danger and then tribute this on top of it, and it's pretty much Vanity's Fiend for most of the decks of this format. It does lock your opponent out, it does hurt, and if you do brick, this can save you. This actually did help me out a lot, and that's, it just saved me in a Sky Striker match where I thought I'd lost completely, and eventually this allowed me to out-resource my opponent because then I just tributed this monster later on. With that being said, it's probably going to be the first card I cut if I do make future revisions to this list. It's just a card that I really like, and you get a lot of utility off of Spheres, drawing it off Saryuja, so for now, it's staying in the deck as my 40th card. But the first chance I get, this is probably the card I'm taking out. The deck's lost a lot of consistency, and drawing this card does really hurt, a lot more than it did in the past. The next card I play is one Batteryman Solar. I took out the other two because in playtesting I drew Batteryman Solar quite a lot. I didn't draw the one Wyverburster pretty much at all ever whenever I drew the Batteryman Solar. Batteryman Solar is great now to draw it off Saryuja to get an extra special summon and a dump so you can set up your 11-year plays, but it's not necessarily the greatest as a starter play anymore, so we have to rely a lot more heavily on the Crusadia engine. So that's why I decided to cut it down to one. It's been working out. The fact that you can also, summon a Colossus with Solar on the field, and that counts as special summoning a Thunder monster, you get an extra token, makes an extra Saryuja or another monster. That's pretty good. Next up, obviously I play the one Black Dragon because it's at 1. Nothing much really to say besides that. This card is still great to play. Even though it's at 1, I still decide to play it because when you do draw it, it is still 2 free summons and a banish, or 2 banishes, which does help you out quite a lot. I still play 3 11-year because this deck needs its banishes now more than ever, and to rip a card out of your opponent's hand is broken, and on top of that, you can go into Saryuja if you're locked into dragons because of the guard dragons. You can go into a lot with this card. You could also use it as Xyz material to summon something like Titanic Galaxy if you really need to, or if you play Sky Prison because you think Salamangreat is going to be a bigger threat. But 3 of this card is, exactly what I play. I never really cut this down at this point. You really, really need your banishes. And like I said before, we do play a greater Crusadia engine. Ooh, my mouse moved a little bit there. We do play a greater Crusadia engine. I'd still play 1 Draco. I'm thinking of upping this to 2 because if you do draw this, your plays pretty much suck at that point. But it is a great card nonetheless. You do need to have this pretty much in deck to get your full combo off if you draw any other Crusadia. So I'm considering putting this to 2 just in case because I don't necessarily like not having it in deck and drawing it. That does hurt. But I do play 1 Maximus. I'm considering upping Maximus because it is a light target, which does help you a lot later on. Using 11 Years Monster Reborn ability by banishing 3 lights. This is the light. The Link 1 is a light, so you get a lot of lights really easily with the Crusadia deck if you do decide to draw Maximus. I didn't mention it before, but I do like Arborea as well. There are some synergistic plays you can get off with it, especially because of it being a tuner. There are some cards you can end on that normally you wouldn't be able to. I don't necessarily play the synchros for it, but if you do decide to play a heavier synchro side deck, which I can, or extra deck, which I can show you in a little bit, this card is definitely not bad. You might want to up this to 2 instead of maybe Maximus. It also does have the Grave Protection, but it really isn't all that relevant. I do play 3 Reclusia because this is still just the best one. When you summon this card, it basically enables your entire Guard Dragon extra deck Saryuja play. It is very, very strong. It allows you to also have the extra utility of if you go second and you draw this card, you can still start your whole combo off, and then the second time you summon it, get rid of an opponent's card before they have a chance to necessarily interrupt your combo any further. So that's why I like to play 3 Maximus. I don't think I cut this to 2. I don't think I'd lower it at all. I think it's fine the way it is. I still play the 1 Danger Bigfoot because if you do hit my Jackalope, I can still summon a level 8, which is great for my plays. I can get into my Xyz monsters if I need to, and sometimes you really do need that extra level 8, so this is just why I play it. Because the dangers have been hit, I have decided to play 2 Mothman at this point. Mothman is a great card. It does give your opponent the ability to draw, but in this deck, drawing and discarding is very, very strong, and you can definitely just put a Roar that you draw in the graveyard if you really have, no other plays. It's not necessarily the worst, even if it does get hit. Other than that, I still play 2 Nessie, 2 Jackalope, and 2 Snake for obvious reasons. These dangers don't net you any loss when you use them. You either get a card on the field or in hand, and you maintain the same amount of card advantage, which is why I love these cards so much. I understand these cards being put to 2. I don't necessarily think that does anything. I think these cards were fine at 3, to be honest, because having, 3 different cards at 2 is 6 cards. It doesn't really change all that much. I mean, obviously it hits consistency a little bit, but if they really thought dangers were a problem, we wouldn't get them to 2. I think this is just more of a glancing blow to say that they know dangers are a problem, but I think they're going to keep them at 2 at least until the Megatons drop, and the Banlist after that we might see some more significant hits of dangers. I also then play 1 Diabolos just because it's still a free level 8 summon that can't be targeted. In the Sky Striker matchup, a non-targeted monster, still very, very strong. And that's really the only reason I play it. Obviously, if you play builds that play Melody of Awakening Dragon, this has a lot more versatility. And if you play the prize, card and you can afford it, definitely a great card to play. But I'm not, I'm not a big baller. I'm not that rich, and I don't think that you need to buy the prize card at this point for this deck. Obviously, it would help, but especially with Eclipse Wyvern being banned, the prize card has lost a little bit of its utility because it does allow you to loop Eclipse Wyvern, and now that it's banned, it doesn't really do much for you. Diabolos at 1 is perfectly fine. Never play more than 1 of this. You can actually even consider taking this out if you want to play other level 8s, but you still need level 8s for your Xyz plays, and it's a free dragon summon, which is big in the stack. Now, getting onto free dragon summons, I do play this card now. A lot of people were playing this in the past. I necessarily didn't like it, but now I feel like it's a necessary card. Defrag Dragon does a lot for you. It allows you to discard a card to special summon it from your hand. It is a dragon, so if you do get locked into your LP getting hit or something like that, and you don't have enough monsters to necessarily link it to Saryuja, and you feel like you're stuck and you don't have any other way to get out of it, Defrag Dragon is a good out. It's also just another free summon. It can summon itself from the graveyard by banishing a card on the turn, I think after it's sent to the graveyard. So that's banishing 3 monsters, sorry. Banishing 3 monsters to summon it after the turn. I think it's sent to the graveyard. So you can't abuse both effects at the same time. But it's good. I don't know, like you can see, except you can only use 1 effect once per turn. So basically you have to choose which one. But Defrag Dragon is weird. I really like the card, but you do necessarily lose a card unless you're ditching a danger for its effect. You're not necessarily going super plus. Does it say discard? Oh no, not even dangers can rescue this really. It's send instead of a discard, which is really big for dangers. Defrag Dragon is a really strong card, but I just don't necessarily think that this card solves all the problems from all the cards we lost. We lost dragons that can special summon themselves by banishing. This is a dragon that can special summon itself by banishing, but it doesn't necessarily have the same versatility and utility that the baby dragons did. I do like it for the reasons I stated before, and I played it 2 for now. I'm thinking of cutting it to 1 to put 3 Destrudo in because I'm liking Destrudo a whole hell of a lot more, but that's another change I think I'm going to make in another iteration after I playtest a bit. With that being said, Destrudo is a card I'm actually really loving in this deck. In the worst case scenario, you could search it off Brotar to summon it. There are some synchro capabilities that this card has for your end board. I do consider that when you try to synchro with this, it is more of a win more than anything else. But Destrudo can also be special summoned off Saryuja, and then when it goes to the grave, you could use its effects to summon itself to pay half your life points. So you basically get 2 special summons out of it, which isn't that bad. It's a dragon extender, which is what this deck kind of lacks at this point. You could also special summon it from the grave, making it a level 4 to enable your guard dragon plays if need be, and that's really what this deck needs. It needs more enablers for the guard dragon plays without necessarily ruining your normal summon or being super weak to interruption. Destrudo is not really that weak, and most people won't hit this card with any hand trap. So I think it's a fair card to play, and that's why I played 2, and that's why I'm considering upping it to 3. Now, Brotar is definitely the card that should have been banned instead of Eclipse Wyvern. Brotar does what Eclipse Wyvern does, but faster with less requirements. This card is absolutely bonkers, and Omni Dragon Brotar, you can quote me on this, is exactly the reason why the baby dragons were hit. Because of the new card we got, Psyframe Lambda, this guy right here, if you did the regular guard dragon play, because Lambda is a generic link 2, you would basically have Lambda up here, and then you would summon the baby dragons beneath it because you already did your link 2 play. At that point, you summon Brotar with Lambda on the field, and Lambda allows you to use Gamma with monsters. So you can search Gamma by targeting Lambda when you summon Brotar, and that's why I think the baby dragons got hit, because it would be another negate that you have on top of like the regular full combo. So that is why I think the baby dragons got hit, is because of Lambda and Brotar, and that's probably why Brotar should have been hit. But they're not going to hit necessarily the newer card. They're going to hit the older card that people aren't trying to buy as much. I still play 3 Thunder Dragon. You need this card. It is a +1, and it does enable you to summon Colossus, which is one of your bigger plays now. More often than not, I'm seeing myself using 2 Colossuses in the first turn. Usually I only use 1 at the end, but now that we lack level 8 monsters and extra stuff to summon, I do think that you need to use 2 Colossus sometimes to just enable the regular play, and that does suck because it doesn't necessarily leave you with a recovery play, aside from going into Nightmares. That's really all you have once you do your full combo with your deck, and if you do get hit, you're kind of screwed at that point. But if they can out your Hot Red Titanic Galaxy full combo board, they kind of deserve to win at that point anyway, so it's not that big of a complaint. I still play 2 Dark. I draw this every time I play this fucking deck, and the reason I play 2 is because I draw it every time. If you do draw it, you get to put it in the grave for free at the end of your opponent's turn. Well, that's the best time to do it. You can do it anytime because it's quick play. But you can search out another copy of yourself. On your turn, you have a free Dark to banish in your graveyard to search whatever cards you need to enable your full combo, which is really good. I still play the 1 Dragon Duo. I was considering upping this card to 2 because it is a card that banishes in the graveyard, and that is what we need. It is also a level 8. It is also a Thunder monster. It has a lot of synergy with a lot of the plays that this deck needs to pull off. I just can't necessarily feel that I need to have this card yet. At 1 is fine. I don't think 2 is necessary yet. I'm going to make some more changes to the deck, and it is a card that could possibly go to 2, but I just want to be as transparent with you guys as possible. This is just a card I'm thinking of having more versatility in the future. Still play the 1 Hawk. I think that's perfectly fine. If you draw in your opening hand, it isn't the worst. You can banish it to mulligan your hand, and that's kind of why I still like the card. The Monster Reborn ability obviously broken in tandem with Dragon Roar, but 1 Hawk is fine. 2 Roar because it has utility in putting your Colossuses back. Now that you go through 2 of them in 1 turn, if you end on a Roar in your hand, you can actually discard the Roar, put Colossus back in your extra deck, and then summon a Colossus again if you need to, which is really, really big, I think, especially if your Colossus gets negated or some other thing, like if it's gone, disappeared, but you can banish a Thunder Dragon from your graveyard. If they can get rid of your Colossus, Roar recycling your second Colossus, which is probably already in grave, is very, very big. So I think you still need to play this card at 2. I was a big fan of Hawk at 2 for a long time, but now that the deck is hit, Roar at 2 I think is definitely the right play. I still play the 1 White Dragon Wyvern Burster because you need to play it. Whether you draw the light or the dark, you're still getting a free card to your hand that can summon itself, which pretty much only advances your plays. Banishing card never hampers you with this deck, so I think that you still need to play the 1 light and the 1 dark. On top of that, I still play 3 Sekka's Light. I think it's a great card. There are some other builds that I have you can see in the side deck right now. Those are just cards I want to discuss for this deck. 3 Sekka's Light I still think is right. Going basically +1 and then getting to recycle 1 card from your hand is still really, really broken if you do draw this card. Especially going first, it enables a lot of plays for you. I think the Sekka's Light build is still correct, although there are other versions of this deck. And there is one other card I wanted to bring up really quick. Let me just type really loudly. I forgot the name of it. Is it Light Pulsar? There we go. Put this right here. And there's one other card I want to bring up as well. I'm going to search Darkness Metal. It'll come up that way. There we go. So, onto the extra deck. I do play 2 Colossus still. Like I said, you do more often than not have to go into the Colossus to advance your plays, whether or not you have a Roar on field that you can't out any other way. You could summon a Colossus, get the Roar's effect to summon a monster in grave, and that gives you 2 monsters on board that you didn't have before. I still play Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss over Crystal Wing. A lot of people are still going towards Crystal Wing for monster negates, but I feel like the thing that this deck needs to negate now more than ever is spell and traps, especially since Mystic Mind didn't necessarily get hit. Only the cards that get you to Mystic Mind did. So Mystic Mind is still a problem for this deck and still turns your whole board pretty much off. So having Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss and Titanic Galaxy is great because Titanic Galaxy can negate the first one, and if they have another, you Hot Red negate, and then in their end phase you can bounce it with spheres, and then you try to OTK them before they can activate the next one because you don't really have another way to out it if they can get rid of your Titanic Galaxy. So it is a way to get rid of Mystic Mind, and that is one of the things that I lost to back. I lost so much to Mystic Mind, it wasn't even funny. And that's all I played was Mystic Mind. It was Sky Striker Mine, Trickstar Mine, Drawburn Mine, and then I played Orcus Mine. So it was prevalent, it was everywhere. So I have almost PTSD from being bopped by Mystic Mind so many times. Next up, I do play the 1 Magius. You need to play this card for the new combo. It was kind of optional if you wanted to play the Crusadians in the past, but there was no reason not to. It furthered your plays. It wasn't weak to Lancia. You're still weak to some interruption, like if your Magius search gets hit, you kind of you kind of get jilted a lot because your normal summon's used up and you don't really have much else. But it does really advance your plays. It gets you to your full. This is basically your main combo now. You have to play the Magius. Its search is broken, especially because you can search a dragon that's level 4 or lower, and the dragon nets you hand advantage back, so you could add back the one you used to make it anyway. So you never lose anything going into this and searching Draco, and that's why you have to play it. I still play the 3 guard dragons. Some people are cutting Pisty, however you want to pronounce it. I think that this card is still necessary because you lost a lot of versatility, and summoning back a dragon to link up into a full Saryuja is a really, really big play now. And you really need that sometimes when you can't get it any other way. So I still like playing Pisty. I still play the spheres because bouncing anything, especially in the matchups like Salamangreat, very, very strong if you could bounce a normal summon, prevent them from getting to any further plays. Other than that, it also basically summons any dragon from your deck, which is pretty broken, which is why I played the Sloth. You could also play things like, I don't know. I'm actually spacing out on the name of the card right now, which is pretty embarrassing. Phantasme. There we go. You could also summon Phantasme so your cards can't be targeted, or you could prevent one targeting from happening, which is great. In the Sky Striker matchup, I've done that before. And, you know, when they multi-roll target their field spell, bounce their field spell so they can't get to Ray. If they have a way to Widow Anchor you or something like that, you can then summon the Phantasme, and you can still negate a whole bunch of stuff because they can't target you then. Very, very strong card. I don't think this card is going anywhere. I think it's a staple in the extra deck for this deck. Phoenix and Unicorn, I think, are needed if you go second, because usually you link up from Phoenix to Unicorn into Saryuja for your first play. Outing your opponent's cards while putting your cards in the graveyard to banish them off your 11 year or your baby dragons if you're lucky enough to draw them, still a very, very strong play. Unicorn, I didn't necessarily go to as much. I could consider cutting this card if you're going for like a pure first turn build, but if you are forced to go second, having a spell and trap destruction and then a spin back is really, really strong, and you sometimes need that to just carry on. Lambda is the new card that replaces the Tour Guide, or whatever you wanted to call it, the Tour Bus from the Underworld, the Link 2. I think it was Beat Cop was the actual name. This replaces Beat Cop or Landfall-Linkus. It's a light, same as Landfall-Linkus, but it has extra effects, so if you do play Gamma, you could actually search Gamma off of Brotar, like I mentioned before, if you can get the combo out the right way. Even if you can't, still a Link 2, a light. It has pretty decent attack, and it just fulfills the role that Landfall-Linkus did, but with an actual effect. So that's why I play Lambda over that, especially since Gamma is seeing a lot more play now more than ever, especially because it's negate and destroy. So it's just another negate that you can get off without having to necessarily have a clear board. I still play 2 Saryuja, and this is something I'm considering cutting to 1. Now, I know you need Saryuja to out yourself of the Guard Dragon combo, but I'm thinking about other things you could do, and especially since there's new cards here in the TCG that are the same link arrows as it and require the same conditions pretty much. There is some doubt in my mind whether or not you need to. Your deck really does need Saryuja, but I don't know if it necessarily needs 2. There's other cards you can go into, and we'll discuss that in a second. Triple Burst, it's a mandatory card, especially now that we're doing the Crusadia combo. Unless you're playing Spartha, I think you have to play Triple Burst, because otherwise you just lock yourself in such a way that you can't get out of your combo and you can't go as far as you could normally. Triple Burst is just mandatory to do your full Guard Dragon combo off the Crusadias. Now, like I mentioned before, there are the synchro plays you can do in this deck, especially because we're playing Destrudo and Arborea, and usually the card you'd go into is Borreload Savage Dragon, because you're going to have a Saryuja in the graveyard regardless, just because of the way your combo usually goes. And even if you don't have that, you could add just one of the Guard Dragons, if anything, just to get an extra negate. I feel like it's kind of a win more at this point, which is why I don't play it. But if you can get this combo off completely, because the deck is a little bit less consistent than it was in the past. So Savage is a great card, but it just feels like a win more, so I don't necessarily want to play it at this point. Future revisions of this deck might rely more on synchros, especially if I'm playing 3 Destrudo. I might just have to put the Savage in my extra deck and find something to cut, because I feel like Savage is a great extender at this point. Not extender, a great thing to extend to. The other thing I was talking about before is the alternate build you could play for this, which is 3 Allure Darkness, Melody of Awakening Dragon, Monster Reborn, and you could even put Goldsark if you want, because it's at 1. That is great for enabling your Thunder Dragons, but is not so great for enabling much of your other plays, except for this card. Melody of the Awakening Dragon is great because you could search your 11 year and your Diabolos, and you get to put a card in the graveyard at the same time, which kind of fuels your 11 year, so it's a great play. But I don't necessarily think that this is stronger than Sekka's Light is at this point. I don't think that they can cover for what Sekka's Light does for you, especially if you saw Wei Li in top 4 of Nats, Sekka's Light into Sekka's Light, and then just go dumb plus and then play out of an incredibly hard state. He did amazing with his deck, and he showed what you can do after you do your full combo and it gets broken. He actually just pushed and pushed and pushed against Salamangreat, which is very, very hard because that's a great grind deck. With that being said, this is the card I'm considering replacing one of my Saryujas with, and I'm not too sure yet. It is a Link 4, and it is the same arrows as Saryuja, and on top of that, it's another negate. This might be something that a future combo can end on with more than 1 or 2 negates, because if it has 2 negates, you could just attack into it to kind of prevent anything from happening. But if you do have Titanic Galaxy, you can redirect the attack to protect it. The only other thing that I dislike about this is it takes the spot of Heretic Seal, because Heretic Seal has to be in your extra deck monster zone for its effects to be relevant on your opponent's turn. So if you don't have the Heretic Seal, or if for some reason you can't go into it, or if future versions of this deck don't rely on the Heretic Seal as much, Apollos is definitely a good card to think about, because it's basically just Light and Darkness Dragon, and you can go into it with just any 2 monsters. They have to have different names, but that's not really that hard for this deck. So this is the card I was considering removing a Saryuja for, and there was another build of this deck that I was considering playing as well, just because I played Chaos Dragons a lot when I was very young. And if you watch like the first couple of videos of my channel, I think I did just do like Chaos Dragon deck profiles. Light Pulsar Dragon is something I'm considering. It's a light monster. It has a Monster Reborn ability for dragons if it's sent to the graveyard, but it does miss timing if you link it away. So that's not necessarily the reason I want to play it. Well, I spoke backwards there. That is the reason I don't necessarily want to play this card, because it says when this card is sent from the field to graveyard, you can target a level 5 or higher dark dragon in your monster and special summon it. So you could special summon a lot of stuff back. You could special summon Red Eyes Darkness Metal. You could special summon your Diabolos. There's a lot of things you could do. But it misses timing, because the first thing to happen when you link summon is a link summon, and this is a when. So this has to be mandatory chainlink 1, I believe. So that's why it's not necessarily the greatest for this play, but it is a card that does allow you to basically just banish a light and a dark from the graveyard. But I think at this point, I would, instead of playing Light Pulsar, I would just up this to 2 if I felt like I needed another chaos type monster. Heck, I might even put BLS in this deck for OTK potential. But that's where my mind is at with that card. The only other card I was considering, and maybe just putting in as the 41st card for this deck, is Red Eyes Darkness Metal, because there is other ways you can play this deck, and you don't necessarily have to go into Brotar to discard to search 11 year every time. And there are times where Red Eyes Darkness Metal is more relevant. It's not necessarily the greatest every time, but if it's special summoned once per turn, you can special summon a dragon type monster from your graveyard. So it has a lot of versatility off of summoning it off of LP, because it just summons back whatever dragon you basically use to make LP. Same thing for Pitsty, and it just allows you to link higher and get into your Saryujas a little bit easier. So I might consider this as the 41st card. But with that being said, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this Thunder Dragon deck profile. Did I not cover anything as far as you'd like me to? Are there any questions or suggestions you have as to how to play this deck better? Are there any cards that I didn't think about that you thought would be a good tech or the new spice for this deck? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say. This is a deck I really love, and I've loved to play for pretty much the last like 6 to 8 months, I think, at this point. Whenever YCS Canada was when I started like playing Thunder Dragons. But let me know in the comments down below. I'm very interested. And with that being said, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and click subscribe, because it's free, it's fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.